So The Lord of the Rings War of the Rohirrim is finally marching its way into cinemas. And here in South Africa, we were lucky enough to get an early release. Let's chat about it. Don't worry, this is a spoiler-free review. Now, if you know me, you will know I'm a massive Lord of the Rings fan. I watch the extended editions of the trilogy at least twice a year. I'm one of those nerds. I'm a Tolkien nerd. I love the text. I love the books. I love going into the backstory, the stuff edited by Christopher Tolkien. There is so much to get into here. Going to this film, I was a little bit apprehensive and a bit nervous, especially watching the trailers and seeing that, you know, Hera is kind of portrayed in the trailers as this kind of girl boss who's going to just save the day and, you know, tell everyone what to do and just push this woke agenda down your throat. And coming out of the film now, that is not what happened at all. This is actually a really fun outing for a Lord of the Rings fan. And I think that there's a couple of reasons that this movie works so well. Firstly, visually, I think the decision to make it animated was really, really clever. It gives Kenji Kamiyama, firstly, as a director, a really, really useful medium to play in something that he's clearly very comfortable with. The world of Middle-earth is really accentuated in this film, and you can tell immediately that Peter Jackson, Fran Walsh, Philippa Boyens, the cast and crew that really brought us the original trilogy were well involved in this project. I think visually you can tell that this is Peter Jackson's Middle-earth that we're returning to in a brand new, fresh, and revitalized way. What we've then gone and done, and this is where I think the cleverness of the film comes in, is we've actually brought back Miranda Otto, who was the original Eowyn in The Lord of the Rings, to be the narrator of the film. And she is doing a retelling of the story which occurred 200 years before The Hobbit even started, before Bilbo even found the rings. At this point, the ring is at the bottom of the Anduin River, and she gives us narrative of what was clearly a story passed down generation from generation of Helm Hammerhand, his daughter, and his two sons, and why you may not have heard about it so far. So again, a clever decision maybe to take a bit of Middle-earth lore that hasn't been that fleshed out and give it a bit of new life, a bit of revitalization. Incredibly important here, there's no law breaking in this film. We do see Hera sort of taking up the mantle as the film goes on of being a leader and somebody who helps to guide Rohan's journey. But in no way is she now suddenly replacing Helm Hammerhand as the king of Rohan, really forcing his decisions one way or another. She does come to loggerheads with him, and that is where some of the fun, exciting moments of the film really happen. But we see aspects of Middle-earth history fleshed out in a way that makes sense. We see the Dunlendings being banished from Rohan, which is something that is referred to in the Two Towers. We see a rising threat in the east with the Easterlings and the Mimikill coming in as something that is a part of this film. The Watcher in the Water makes an appearance we would have seen in the trailer. So all of those things are really cleverly crafted and put in a way that makes sense for the plot of the film and also for the greater Lord of the Rings universe going forward. You can watch this movie and go straight ahead into watching the original trilogy and not feel like there's been anything that has created a plot hole or an issue, especially when you're going to watch the Two Towers, where a lot of these areas that we visit are so well represented. What the animation allows for is these parts of the story that would clearly be embellished as they would if you're around a campfire, but Helm Hammerhand's strength and the way that he would take down his foes. There's the embellishment there that really helps to sort of lift the overall feel of, wow, I'm stepping into a legendary story taking place in Peter Jackson's Middle-earth with this revitalized take using animation. And anybody who sees that animation will tell you it is absolutely stunning. The film looks beautiful. I think if anything, the place where the film might fall a bit short is the soundtrack. The soundtrack gives you chills in the opening scenes. It does pay homage to Howard Shore's original score from particularly the Two Towers and all the scenes involving the Rohirrim. But visually, the film is absolutely stunning. The attention to detail in terms of the maps in the background of some of the scenes. Something as small as Thimbalime growing around Edoras and visiting these iconic locations in Edoras, in Helm's Deep, the Deeping Wall, Isengard. We go into Fangorn Forest for a little bit. There are so many cool locations that we get to visit. Dunharrow is something that pops up in the film, and everything is explained incredibly well. There are some plot points we could feel like, hey, why didn't this character or these people show up to help? It's explained in a way that makes sense in the film. And I think ultimately what ties it together at the end of the day is the fact that we have Hera as a strong female character who makes sense. She is a woman who clearly somebody that Eowyn would have heard about and looks up to. She's grown up kind of in the shadow of her two brothers who are warriors, and she's trying to prove herself in the mold, I would say, of an Arwen from Fellowship of the Ring, or even in, if you kind of combine Arwen and Eowyn, I think two of their best traits would be combined in the character of Hera, and that shows off really well on screen. It gives her character a really interesting narrative arc to follow, as she has to take on responsibility at some points, know her own weaknesses and other points, rely on her friends and allies in other scenarios. So it's one of those cases of a character really being well written and a well-directed script, allowing for a strong female character to take up the mantle in a way that feels natural. That is what is so important. I actually giggled in this film because one of the main reasons I think a lot of people are so against Rings of Power is this girl boss attitude that they've sort of slapped onto Galadriel, which feels so out of character. And I mean, we open with her climbing that ice wall in episode 1 of Rings of Power, and it just feels odd and out of place and wrong. In this film, we actually have Hero climbing an ice wall, and it feels deserved and it feels earned, and she's doing it for the right reasons and for her people. And that is something that goes a long way in terms of developing a script and developing compelling characters that are going to help you feel the stakes as you go through this film with them. There's a lot at stake for the future of Rohan, for the future of Hera's people, for her own family, and you feel that when watching this film. You have a compelling story giving us background information on characters that we may want to know more about, especially Helm Hammerhand. I was really excited to hear what sort of his role in all of this was. We hear these legends about him in the Two Towers, we see statues of him, we see all of these really cool references to him. Why was he such a legend? This film answers those questions for you. So if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, if you're an anime fan, if you are both, this is the movie for you. If you're just a casual Lord of the Rings fan, I would still go and see this. It's definitely worth the watch. It's around 2.5 hour runtime, so pretty long movie, but it runs really smoothly and is really well divided into a beginning, middle, and end that feels satisfying for the audience, leaving lots of Easter eggs for Lord of the Rings fans, but a really cool narrative arc for anybody who just wants to enjoy a fun movie-going experience. The film is officially out. I cannot wait to hear your thoughts on it. Let me know in the comments down below, and we can have a proper chat about Lord of the Rings: War of the Rohirrim. That's all for today, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.